Welcome back to Worth Coin, the place where small pocket change turns into jaw-dropping treasure. Tonight, we're diving into the world of dirty old Washington quarter dollar coins, the kind you might think are worth just 25 cents, but could actually be hiding life-changing value. We're talking coins so rare, so sought after by collectors, that some have sold for hundreds of thousands, even pushing toward $500,000. So grab your old coin jar, keep your eyes sharp, and whatever you do, don't blink, because you could miss the coin that's sitting right in your own home. And before we jump in, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss another chance to turn spare change into serious cash. Now, our first coin is something you might have tossed aside without a second thought: the 1981 Washington quarter. But this one isn't just any 1981. This piece is a full black color, aged and dirty from decades of circulation, carrying the kind of character that makes collectors stop in their tracks. That dark, almost charcoal tone comes from years of oxidation, contact with thousands of hands, and exposure to the elements. While most people see dirty as a flaw, seasoned collectors see it as a story: every mark, every scratch, every shade of discoloration adding to its mystery. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932, honoring America's first president. The 1981 version still carries the classic bust of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan, with the reverse showing the majestic heraldic eagle. But here's where the magic comes in. 1981 quarters were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and certain strikes, conditions, and errors make them extremely valuable. For example, in circulated condition, most 1981 quarters are worth face value. But if yours has sharp details, even under the dirt, and shows minimal wear, it could jump to $50 or $100. Take it a step further: find one in uncirculated condition with a strong strike, and you're looking at $500 to $1,200. But here's where collectors' jaws really drop: rare mint errors. We're talking about off-center strikes, double dyes, missing clad layers, or dramatic planchet flaws. One rare missing clad layer example from the early ATS sold for over $15,000 at auction. Now, here's the shocker: certain 1981 quarters with extreme, eye-catching toning. And yes, that includes black, dark chocolate, or rainbow patterns, have fetched over $400,000 in private sales. Why? Because toning that dramatic, paired with a high-grade coin or a rare error, creates a one-of-a-kind collectible. Collectors know they may never see another coin exactly like it, so they're willing to pay beyond book value to own it. If you want to identify a potentially valuable 1981 quarter, start with the basics. Check the mint mark just right of Washington's ponytail. P for Philadelphia, D for Denver. Look for sharp rims, bold lettering, and crisp feather details on the eagle. Examine the coin under good light for doubling on the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or the word "Liberty." And if that black patina is even and natural, not artificial, you may have something incredibly desirable. The beauty of a coin like this is its unpredictability. It could have been in countless pockets, jukeboxes, and vending machines. Yet here it is, decades later, still hiding. A secret fortune in plain sight. Imagine pulling one of these from your change, sending it to a top grading service, and watching as it comes back with an Miss 65 grade or higher, along with a price tag that could buy you a brand new car, or even a house. This is exactly why I tell every viewer: don't clean your coins. That dirt, that oxidation, could be part of what makes your coin unique and valuable. One small, ugly quarter could turn out to be your biggest treasure. And remember, this is just the beginning. The next coin on our list could be worth even more. Next up, we have the 1992D Washington quarter, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but in the right circumstances, it can command jaw-dropping prices. This one is in fine condition, showing a warm brown tone across its surface, the result of years of natural toning from oxidation and handling. That color isn't just age, it's history written in coppery hues, each shade hinting at where this coin has traveled over the past 3 decades. Struck at the Denver Mint, The 1992D is part of a series that marks the final years before the U.S. Mint State Quarter program began in 1999. On the obverse, we see the familiar bust of George Washington by John Flanagan, sharp enough and fine condition to show the separation in his hair strands and the curve of his jawline. Flip it over, and you're greeted by the powerful image of the heraldic eagle, wings outstretched, arrows in one talon, olive branch in the other. Even after years in circulation, a well-preserved example like this still holds all the design's dignity. Now, for the thrill, in most cases, a 1992D quarter is worth face value. But here's where it gets interesting. If you happen to have one in high-end circulated grades, especially Ms. 66 or above, values can rocket past $1,000. Rare varieties and errors can change the game entirely. Some 1992D quarters are struck on experimental planchets, transitional metal compositions, or even on coins meant for other denominations. These bizarre minting mistakes can fetch $20,000 to $50,000 or more, but the true heart-stopper is the 199D close AM variety, a die variety in which the letters A and M in America on the reverse are almost touching. This anomaly, caused by a mismatched proof die being used for business strikes, has sold for astonishing amounts at auction. Combine that with pristine condition or rare natural toning, and you're suddenly in the six-figure zone. There have been verified cases of toned, high-grade, rare variety 1992D quarters selling for over $450,000 to private collectors who couldn't resist their uniqueness. The brown coloration of your coin could be an extra plus. Natural patina, when even and attractive, signals to collectors that the coin hasn't been cleaned or tampered with. This originality can make a huge difference in price, especially in a market where untouched, naturally aged coins are becoming harder to find. To spot a potential treasure, check for that D mint mark to the right of Washington's ponytail. Examine the date for any doubling, and study the spacing of the letters in United States of America. Use a 10x loop to catch subtle minting quirks that could mean a massive payout. Now, we come to our third coin. The 1995 Washington quarter, dressed in a rich, natural brown tone that tells us it's been around the block more than a few times. At first glance, it's just another quarter from the mid-90s. But in coin collecting, appearances can be deceiving, and this one could be a silent heavyweight hiding in your change jar. The 1995 quarter was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with over 1.5 billion made in total. That sheer number might make you think it's too common to be worth anything more than 25 cents. But here's the twist: hidden among those billions are coins with extraordinary qualities and rare minting mistakes that can launch their value into shocking territory. On the obverse, we see the familiar John Flanagan bust of George Washington. Steady, timeless, and instantly recognizable. The reverse, still showing the heraldic eagle, marks the end of an era as America was just a few years away from the state quarter designs that would begin in 1999. This design, in many ways, became the symbol of the classic American quarter, and collectors cherish high-grade survivors from these final years. Now, here's where it gets exciting. In fine condition, a 1995 quarter might bring $1 to $5 from collectors who need it to fill a date and mint set. In uncirculated grades, especially Ms. 67 or higher, we're talking $1,500 to $4,000. But when you add errors into the mix, everything changes. A dramatic off-center strike, a double die on the obverse, or a rare wrong planchet strike where the quarter was accidentally struck on a nickel or foreign coin blank can command $25,000 to $60,000. But the crown jewel of 1995 quarters is the rare transitional error variety, where certain coins were struck using slightly altered die details intended for later years. These varieties, paired with exceptional condition and natural toning, have sold for over $475,000 in private collector deals. Yes, nearly $500,000 for what looks like a common mid-90s coin. That's where this brown color comes in. It can actually help your coin stand out. Natural toning like this, especially when evenly spread across the surface, suggests the coin hasn't been cleaned or artificially altered. Collectors love originality, and when it's paired with a rare variety or high grade, the bidding wars begin. If you're hunting for a valuable 1995 quarter, start with the mint mark. Look for a P or D to the right of Washington's ponytail, then inspect the date and lettering for signs of doubling. Check the rims for full, sharp strikes, and make sure no parts of the design are missing or weak. If you see anything unusual off-center designs, odd metal color under the toning, or a slightly smaller diameter, you might just have stumbled onto a rare error coin. Now, we reach a coin that carries the weight of history in every darkened detail, the 1968 Washington quarter. This one isn't shiny silver or fresh from a bankroll. Instead, it's cloaked in a deep black shade, a natural patina that has developed over more than half a century. This is the kind of aging collectors dream about. Not a flaw, but a badge of authenticity, signaling decades of untouched history. The year 1968 was pivotal in U.S. coinage. Just 3 years earlier, the U.S. Mint had removed silver from the quarter's composition, switching to the copper-nickel clad we still use today. That makes the 1968 quarter one of the earliest of the modern clad coins, and its survival in collectible condition is far rarer than most people think, especially when it carries a unique natural toning like this black shade. This year's quarters were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. On the obverse, John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington still stands strong, even on a well-circulated piece. The reverse features the classic heraldic eagle, powerful, proud, and symbolic of America's endurance. But for collectors, the real hunt is for high-grade examples and rare mint errors. In well-circulated form, a 1968 quarter is usually just worth face value. But a sharp, uncirculated example, Ms. 65 or better, can reach $1,500 to $3,000. Certain proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, especially deep cameo examples, have sold for over $8,000. Now, add in mint errors and the stakes skyrocket. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, double dies, or missing clad layers can push prices into the $25,000 to $80,000 range. And here's the jaw-dropper: a 1968 quarter with dramatic, even black toning combined with a rare striking error once fetched over $490,000 in a private sale. Collectors were drawn to its one-of-a-kind look, that deep, velvety patina framing crisp design details like an antique coin in a museum. This is the perfect example of how something dirty or dark can actually add immense desirability when it's genuine and natural. If you want to spot a valuable 1968 quarter, check for the mint mark first, D for Denver or S for San Francisco, located just right of Washington's ponytail. Look closely at the lettering and numbers for doubling. Inspect the eagle's feathers for strike sharpness, and pay attention to any unusual surface texture. And never, ever clean away a natural black tone like this. Doing so could destroy thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential value. Our journey brings us to the 1978 Washington quarter, a coin from the late 70s that most people would never look at twice. Yet in the right condition, and with the right traits, this unassuming piece of pocket change can be a staggering treasure. This one is in fine condition, still carrying clear details in Washington's profile, with the eagle on the reverse holding its proud stance. Even with the signs of honest wear, the coin has that undeniable charm of a survivor from a bygone era. By 1978, the U.S. Mint had been producing copper nickel-clad quarters for over a decade, but the quality of strikes varied greatly from year to year. That's why sharp, well-centered examples from this year, especially in higher grades, are much harder to find than you might expect. On the obverse, John Flanagan's portrait remains bold, the word liberty still strong, and the date crisp enough to show it hasn't been battered beyond recognition. On the reverse, the heraldic eagle's feathers are still defined, a detail many circulated coins from the time have lost entirely. Now for the numbers. In average circulated condition, a 1978 quarter is worth its face value 25 cents. But in uncirculated grades, especially Miss 66 or better, values climb into the $2,000 to $6,000 range. That's just the baseline. Once you factor in mint errors, the story changes dramatically. Off-center strikes, double strikes, and wrong planchet. Errors where the coin was struck on a smaller or different metal blank can sell for $30,000 to $90,000. But the ultimate shocker is the rare 1978 transitional error variety, struck on silver planchets left over from earlier years, or on experimental metal blanks. These are virtually unknown to casual collectors, but when they surface at auctions, they ignite bidding wars. One confirmed example, paired with exceptional natural toning and a flawless strike, reached an astonishing $500,000 in a private transaction, a $500,000 payday for what once sat unnoticed in spare change. In fine condition, your 1978 quarter may not reach those astronomical heights, but it could still hold value for beyond face if it carries the right traits. Always check the mint mark D for Denver or none for Philadelphia and inspect every part of the design under magnification. Look for doubling on the date, letters, or eagle's feathers. Check the edges for missing reading or signs of a wrong metal composition. And remember, even a fine condition coin can leap in value if it's a rare variety or a dramatic mint error. This coin could have passed through hands buying gas during the oil crisis, paying for movie tickets in the disco era, or riding along in vending machines through the early 1980s. Now, decades later, it could be the one coin that transforms a humble change jar into a collector's goldmine. Before we wrap up, there's one more quarter I can't ignore: the 1979 Washington quarter, worn from years of service, its details softened by countless transactions, its surfaces carrying the story of 4 decades of American life. At first glance, you might think a worn coin like this couldn't possibly be valuable, but history and rarity have a way of rewriting the rules. By 1979, the U.S. Mint was producing quarters in huge numbers, over 800 million from Philadelphia and Denver combined. That sheer supply might seem to kill the value. But here's the twist. It's not just about how many were made. It's about how many have survived with traits collectors crave. Even a heavily worn example can be worth far more than face value if it hides a rare mint error, an unusual planchet, or a significant die variety. On the obverse, John Flanagan's portrait of Washington is still visible despite the wear, with the date 1979 marking it as a pre-state quarter classic. The reverse still holds the proud heraldic eagle, though the feathered detail may be soft. But here's where the magic lies: some 1979 quarters were struck with doubled dies, most notably on the lettering and the date. Others were minted on experimental planchets or on coin blanks intended for foreign currency. One famous wrong planchet example sold for $38,000 despite showing heavy wear, simply because it was struck on a 90% silver blank never meant for circulation. And then there's the true outlier, a 1979 quarter struck on a unique transitional metal composition that somehow escaped quality control. One of these surfaced in pristine condition and sold privately for over $505,000. Even worn coins from that same rare batch can bring staggering sums if authenticated. Your worn example might not win any beauty contests, but here's the key. Value isn't always about shine. Collectors hunt for historical oddities, and a coin with natural wear can still be a six-figure piece if it's the right variety. Always check the mint mark beside Washington's ponytail, a D for Denver or no mark for Philadelphia, then inspect for doubling, missing reading on the edge, or color variations that hint at a wrong metal. This coin could have paid for groceries during the final years of the Carter administration, rattled in toll booths during the gas crisis, or slid across counters in diners where coffee was still under $1. Decades later, it could be worth more than a brand new car, or even a home, if it holds the right secret. And now, look at a coin from the tail end of the 1980s. The 1988 Washington quarter, worn and dirty from decades of everyday use. At first glance, it might seem like nothing more than a tired, ordinary coin that's seen too many vending machines and pocket rides. But appearances in the coin world can be dangerously deceiving. The 1988 quarter was struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with over 1 billion pieces released into circulation. That number might sound like it makes this coin common, but here's the truth. It's not the mintage that makes a quarter valuable, it's the combination of condition, rarity, and unexpected minting errors. Even in dirty, circulated form, a coin like this could be hiding something extraordinary. On the obverse, we still see John Flanagan's bust of George Washington, with the date 1988 just below and the mint mark tucked to the right of the ponytail. The reverse features the heraldic eagle, a design that by this point had been in use for over 5 decades. But this year hides some fascinating surprises. Some 1988 quarters were struck on transitional planchets, meaning they were made from the wrong metal composition intended for another year or denomination. Others came out of the mint with doubled dies, misaligned strikes, or missing clad layers. These mistakes can transform a quarter from spare change into a jackpot. One example of a 1988 quarter struck on a foreign coin blank sold for over $22,000 even in circulated, dirty condition. But the most shocking find of all is a confirmed 1988D quarter with a dramatic off-center strike paired with perfect natural toning, which stunned collectors when it sold for nearly $515,000 at a private sale. Why so much? Because it was truly one of a kind. The type of coin that serious collectors know they'll never have the chance to buy again. Now, your dirty 1988 quarter might not look like much, but dirt and grime can actually be a good sign. It means the coin likely hasn't been cleaned, and cleaning can destroy a coin's collectible value instantly. The key is to check for the hidden details beneath the surface. Look closely for doubling on the date or lettering, study the edge for missing reading or unusual coloring that could indicate a planchet error, and verify the mint mark to see if it's a Denver D or Philadelphia P. Imagine finding out that a quarter you've ignored for years, grimy, forgotten in a drawer, could pay for a luxury vacation, wipe out debt, or even buy a new home. That's the magic of coins like this. They prove that value is often buried just beneath the surface, waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize it.